guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome to Monday. And around here, Monday is countdown day, baby, and it's no different today. Today, the topic is going to be the top 10 second-in-command Transformers characters as voted on by everybody from all across social media. We've amassed it all, and that's going to be our topic this time around in the latest GotBot Counts Down. Hey all, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, your most humble of hosts, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, man, please like, comment, share, of course, subscribe, and while you're at it, light them up, baby. Hit that notification bell, please. It helps me out a ton. It lets you know when content of all sorts goes up here on the channel. Check out Machinery of Man, The Everything Factor, all the groups that I'm either a mod or admin for, as well as all my social media links down in the description below. If you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. Check us out on Patreon. See what we offer to you through Teespring. Or, of course, hit the join button right here on YouTube to become a channel member, baby. And this is the top 10 second-in-command Transformers. The votes have been collected. This is based on voting from all across social media. Hundreds of votes amassed. Hundreds of them counted and collected, tallied and totaled, and we're going to kick things off with the honorable mentions first. And today we have 4 honorable mentions. 3 of them had the exact same number of votes. Coming in at the bottom of the honorable mentions is Springer. Interesting selection that some people voted for. I don't really ever recall Springer being second in charge, but then some people point out to me that arguably he certainly was as part of the Wreckers. I don't know that ranking. I don't know that fiction super well, so I don't know for sure if that's accurate or not. When it comes to the G1 cartoon, while I believe he was high ranking, I don't know if he was ever a second in command. Nevertheless, he did get a couple of votes. The ones that were a tie, Armada Jetfire, Alita 1, who I was glad to see here. I thought she might get some more love considering the recent kind of uptake in her character based on the War for Cybertron Netflix trilogy series program. And Prowl, because a lot of people went with his tech spec. And according to his tech spec, it looks like he had a rank, I believe, of 9. So that's kind of our honorable mentions. Naturally, none of them made the list. So we're going to do what we always do. We're going to kick things off with number 10, Burst. And kicking us off at number 10, we have a tie, being Megatron and Ratchet. Transformers Prime Ratchet specifically. Why is this a tie? First, the Megatron by rights is the co-captain in the comics. Though everybody that voted for him said the same thing. I know he was a co-captain, but let's be realistic. He was really a second in command. Interestingly, Rodimus or Hot Rod, whatever you want to call him, he also got some votes as a second in command to Megatron. Again, the whole co-captain thing. A little bit dubious, but he did get enough to get on the list. Autobot Megatron, basically. And Transformers Prime Ratchet. Why? Because he was like one that was older, experienced, always spoke kind of logically and with sense, at least for the most part. He stayed back at the base. He protected kind of the interests of the Autobots, even when Optimus Prime couldn't. And that's why a lot of people voted for him. Whether it's Megatron, whether it's Ratchet, both of them came in, and deservedly so, at the number 10 slot. Now, number 9, I have to believe, got the votes that he got because, not because he was effective, no. Not because he was necessarily memorable as a second in command, no. But I gotta believe that this one got the votes that he got because he has an impending, very soon, as of this recording, release coming in the War for Cybertron Kingdom line. I'm talking about Beast Wars Scorponok. Beast Wars Scorponok comes in at number 9. He was second in command of the Predacons, at least for that season 1. Was he effective? Not really. Was he necessarily followed? Not really. It was more like a joke second in command, though there were aspects and times that he took it very, very seriously. No, before you ask, this is not the Kingdom release. This is the original from the 90s with a ton of custom work done on him. I've looked at this guy before here on the channel. Beast Wars Scorponok, not the most memorable, not the most effective, but he did take the number 9 slot. Now, when it comes to number 8, I don't know if this character was ever officially labeled as a second in command, or if because he was older, experienced, and somewhat wise, he was considered to be a voice of reason and therefore an authoritative voice and therefore able to be seen as a second in command. I'm talking about Rhinox. Rhinox got enough votes, like I said, for number 8, but I don't know if it was ever actually said that Rhinox was a second in command, or if it was, if Primal wasn't there, it just sort of fell on him because he was the older one. He was the most mature one. He was arguably the most intelligent one. He was definitely the calmest one. Some people would argue and say, no, the second in command was Rat Trap. Some other people, and he did get a couple of votes, some other people would argue and say the second in command was Cheetor. This early on, I don't think Cheetor was any second in command. Not yet. Some people said Dinobot was the second in command. Again, right from the beginning, I don't think Dinobot was necessarily trusted enough to be a second in command, but Rhinox, right from the get-go, certainly was. As things would change later, he most definitely wasn't second in command, but I think that's how he started off in the program. And enough voters agreed that he was able to tie himself up at the number 8 slot. Coming in at number 7, we have a really interesting one. And I say interesting because some people said when the votes came up that, no, this guy wasn't the second in command. What are you talking about? He was just an experienced friend. And other people said he definitely was a second in command. I always saw him as a second in command when I was a lad growing up, and even now as an adult, I have seen him at least as one of the high-ranking lieutenants. Sometimes I see him as the second in command, sometimes not, but enough people did see him in as a second in command that Ironhide was able to take the number 7 slot. Yeah, it was a long preamble there, wasn't it? Look, I see Ironhide as a second in command. I do. There were a lot of times when he seemed like he was leading Autobot forces. There were a lot of times when he seemed like he was kind of being the one to carry out Optimus's orders. I don't know if he officially was or wasn't, but I know that I certainly thought he was, and I know enough fans thought he was, that he easily took the number 7 slot. By the way, this is a little Smashdown in his hand. I feel like a Red Hammer Lad matches this guy very nicely. Of course, that's just me. Coming in at number 6 is Soundwave, who is indeed superior. Was he ever actually a second in command? I always feel like, and this is just my sense on it, I always feel like the ranking was Megatron, Starscream, and then Soundwave. But other people put Soundwave even higher. What a lot of people did is they said he was a second in command, he was a lieutenant, and he was the second in command who was the most loyal to Megatron. I can buy all that, I can understand all that. And some people said he was a formidable second in command and someone who had a justifiable argument for being second in command because he already had minions himself whom he already commanded. We all remember that entire scene aboard Astro Train after Megatron, you know, was thrown off and there was a power vacuum. And Soundwave was one of the ones who was put forth to be the leader and supported by his own minions. There's an argument that maybe he should have been made the leader. Any way you want to cut it, the loyalty of this guy, the high rank of this guy, and the capabilities and threatening nature of this guy, both by himself and with his minions, scored enough votes from enough voters that he was able to take the number 6 slot. And now we're at that most magical of places, the halfway mark. We know it well, we know it well. And at the halfway mark, we have Shockwave. Specifically, actually, though this isn't that Shockwave. Specifically, it was kind of a cut almost down the middle between the Netflix Shockwave and, more importantly, the Transformers Prime Shockwave. Specifically, a lot of people, oddly when they voted, said Transformers Prime Beast Hunter Shockwave. I don't have that one, so I said, you know what, since there were a lot of votes almost equal to that for the Netflix lad, I'll use the Netflix lad. I will say this, if I had to only pick one, because I did put those votes together, but if I had to only pick one, it would be the Transformers Prime version that the majority of people voted for, that wanted Shockwave to appear on the list. And I get it, because in Season 3 of Beast Hunter, Shockwave had almost limitless authority, limitless power, thanks to Project Predacon. I absolutely get it. He was not only threatening and capable and foreboding, but he was almost given carte blanche power by Megatron to do as he pleased. Enough people saw that as a viable power base for a second in command that he was easily able to take the number 5 slot. And then coming in at number 4 is Starscream. Again, much like there was a close kind of race, so to speak, between the Netflix and Prime versions of Shockwave, there was a close race between the G1 and Prime version of Starscream, though this is, of course, the Earthrise, standing in for the G1 version. Also for Starscream, kind of lumped in with the votes, there was a couple of votes for his animated version, his Armada version, and his RID version. I don't remember an RID version, unless they mean RID 2015. They never made it clear. Look, I think most of us know that in general, the Decepticon Air Commander tends to be the second in command, or at least the aspiring second in command. I think most people would say that usually the way it goes is Starscream is trying to usurp power from Megatron, and if something was to happen to Megatron, it would almost be a foregone conclusion that Starscream would be the next in line. Though, admittedly, in Transformers Prime especially, that was not necessarily always the case, because we do have an argument for Shockwave being second in command there. We also have an argument there for Dreadwing being a second in command there. So it varies a little bit for Starscream, but I feel like of all the characters in all the fictions, Starscream is one of those who consistently presents himself as being a second in command of the Decepticons. And for that reason, he has to take the number 4 slot. And that only leaves us with 3. And coming in at number 3, if you don't like and don't buy that Ironhide or Prowl would be a second in command of the Autobots, how about a Jazz? There are a lot of times when Jazz seemed like he was following out or carrying out the orders of Optimus, and there were times when he would even order a number of Autobots to transform, and he would call them by name. There were a lot of missions that he did lead on. There is definitely a solid argument for Jazz being ranked as a second in command. As a young lad, I never really saw it, but the older I've gotten, the more I've seen that, yeah, that makes total sense, and a lot of people felt the same way. In fact, enough that he was able to take the number 3 slot. At number 2, we have who is arguably the most loyal Decepticon of them all, and one that is also extremely capable. I'm talking about Cyclonus. Yeah, this guy totally deserves to be on this list, 100%. He was super loyal to the Decepticons, super loyal to Galvatron, but at the same time had his own mind, intellect, and combat skills and capabilities that, he was a formidable force by himself. Had he aspired to take command of the Decepticons, I believe he probably could have done it. I think he could have usurped Galvatron had he wanted to. Now, to be fair, fun fact here, a lot of people debate if this is Skywarp or if this is Bombshell. If it is Skywarp, then there's an argument to be made that Skywarp, of course, was also extremely loyal to Megatron, going back to that first episode where he gets revived and the next one he pulls over is Megatron to be revived. And if you look at the tech spec card for Skywarp, he's actually ranked as 9. So if this is Skywarp, it would make sense that he would rank high. It would make sense that he would be loyal to the Decepticon cause. And without Starscream in his way, it would probably make sense that he would take the number 2 slot. Just like he did on this countdown. And that only leaves us with 1. And at number 1, we actually have he who often describes himself as nothing more than just a soldier. I'm talking, of course, about Ultra Magnus. Wait, this is the Transformers Prime Ultra Magnus. Again, this is one of those cases where I kind of put a couple together. It was pretty evenly split down the middle between Transformers Prime Ultra Magnus and G1 Ultra Magnus. A lot of people said in G1, he should have been the one to take the Matrix next. It was the logical choice. And even when Rodimus was leader, he often often turned to the advice of Ultra Magnus. So Magnus was a trusted advisor of Optimus Prime, but also a trusted advisor of Rodimus Prime. And everybody knew that in a pinch, if somebody had to take command, had to take control, he was going to be able to do it. In Transformers Prime, once this guy appeared, we knew that he was very trusted by Optimus, and whether by definition or by association or just because he had been used to being a leader because he led the Wreckers, he kind of like took a leadership role. And in the absence of Optimus Prime, he really filled a vacuum as a leader for the Autobots. Whether you think he was effective at it or not is a different story, but he did fill that role and give the Autobots some structure and some direction when they needed it most. If that doesn't spell leader, I don't know what does. Enough people felt the same way about either the Transformers Prime Ultra Magnus or the G1 Ultra Magnus that he was easily able to take the #1 slot. And there you have it, folks. We've gone from 10 down to 1 once again. And this was an interesting list. I did not expect the top of this list to play out the way it did. I really thought that Starscream was going to be #1. I really thought that Ironhide was going to be #2. Had I made this list myself, not based on the votes, it would be quite different from what we got. So I'm glad that it worked out the way that it did. It was definitely a fun one. Let me know where your favorites fell on the list. There were, of course, several other votes. Vector Prime had some. Leozak had some. Dreadwing from Transformers Prime had some. Six Shot, Dinobot. Armada Thrust. Beast Machines Thrust. I liked that one. Beast Machines Tankor. I liked that one. Who else did we have here who got some votes? Drift from the comics, apparently. Pipes got a couple of votes. I found that really interesting. Bumblebee and Skylynx got a vote. One single vote he got. Anyway, let me know where your favorites fell or if they made the list at all. I appreciate you guys coming by, giving me some of your extremely valuable time. I do know how important it is to you. If you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. Check us out on Patreon. See what we offer to you through Teespring, or of course hit the join button right here on YouTube to become a channel member. While you're at it, hit the subscribe button, stick around, have some fun with us. Don't forget that somehow, some way, each and every single day, you do make a difference. And I look forward, baby, to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit, either in the live streams on Thursday nights at the stop motion premieres or the old-fashioned way, baby, right here inside the videos.